Siemens and Healthineers valuing the IPO. Question number 1. Summary of the case. The case of Siemens and Healthineers is basically about how Siemens decided to separate Healthineers of his business, and with the objective to make Healthineers more flexible and to get more autonomy in order to be a public company that can get some acquisitions in other countries. So with that, Siemens start to make some steps. For example, in 2014, Siemens launched its Vision 2020 Plus as a strategic project. This Vision 2020 Plus articulates a business concept so that Siemens could frequently occupy growth fields, strengthen its core business, outperform its competitors in efficiency and performance. They realized that medical care seemed not to be among the Siemens project because according to Kieser's analysis, that was his CEO, medical care was changing from being experimental to being cognitive. Healthineers had operated as a separate company, 7% privately owned by Siemens, for several years. In early 2016, it represents 17% of Siemens sales. And Siemens was originally expected to sell a 13% stake in Healthineers, but they only offer 15% of Healthineers. With that, they were expected that his IPO will range 26 euros to 13 euros per share, and the market capitalization for Healthineers of between 26 billion and 31 billion euros. Question number 2. What was the investment thesis for buying Healthineers? In 2018, Franz Gerber was interested in Healthineers, so he examined sell-side reports that equity analysis had issued following the IPO, and also the Deutsche Bank analysis, that concluded that Healthineers had world power in healthcare. That was the number 1. They considered that scale and scope, they diversify in products, regions, and customers. They also analyzed that Healthineers has a leadership position in larger markets and in structural growth. He was the number 1 or 2 in almost all his business. They have a solid financial position and growth potential. And also they have a scope of sales acceleration and further margin expansion because Healthineers has delivered 2015 and 2017 fiscal year sales and adjustment earnings of CAGR of 3.3% plus 3.8% organic and 6.4% respectively.
Question number 3. Based on DB's forecast of EBITDA in 2019 and the set of multiples for peer companies, what was a reasonable estimate of Healthineers' enterprise value and its equity value? This was the process we used to get the enterprise value. To answer this question, we use the multiples method. First, we use the sum product function on Excel to multiply the sales of the multiple price to earnings ratio of 2019 of the imagining, advanced therapies, and diagnostic peers, and the market share of these three divisions, and return the sum of products. Then we multiply the weighted average times the EBITDA to get the equity. We found the value of the debt in the case. Finally, we add the equity and the debt, and we got the enterprise value. Finally, to get the equity value, we just subtract the enterprise value minus the debt. Question number 4. What might lead to a different multiple? How might Franz explain that to an investor? For instance, why was the multiple for diagnostics higher than that for imagining and advanced therapies in the peer comparisons? How would he explain an appropriate multiple for Healthineers?
Question number 5. What was a reasonable discounted cash flow value for the company, and what seemed to be the biggest value drivers? So, to get the reasonable discount cash flow, we decided to use the percentage of the perpetual growth in the year 2032 of the account revenue growth. With that percent, we use it in the free cash flow to grow it to the present value. So with that, we get 52,500. That means that this is the present value, but we need to get a new flow to can use the formula BNI. So we sum this amount with this amount and we get that. So with that we get a new cash flow, and with that we can use the formula with the discount rate that was 8%. So with that we get that the BNI is 35,500 and the discount rate is 8% and the perpetual growth is 2%. So the biggest value drivers will be 2% that represent the perpetual growth rate and the 8% that represent the discount rate.
Question number 6. Looking at the divisional multiples, why were they different across segments? Why might a Healthineers division command a higher or lower multiple than the segment average? In this question, we have to analyze the exhibit number 5. In this exhibit, there are two types of multiples, the EV to EBITDA and the EV to sales. Well, first of all, we will analyze the EV to EBITDA. This ratio shows the multiplier of the value of the company and the resources generated by a company, regardless of its financial structure. These ratios are different across segments according to their growth of each one. For example, if the segment has a high growth, the multiplier will be high. If the segment has a low growth, the multiplier will be low. According to the case, the addressable market across three areas are for imaging 3%, for diagnostic 5%, and therapies 4%. For that reason, in the picture we can see a diagnostic had a higher value than the others. Regarding EV to sales, this ratio shows how many times the value of the company's sales is valued in the market. This ratio can be different across segments according to their distribution of total sales. For example, if the ratio is high, indicates that sales are lower than the price, so the segment is overvalued. If the ratio is low, indicates that the sales are higher than the price, so the segment is undervalued. According to the case, the market share across three areas are imaging 31%, diagnostic 15%, therapies 32%. For that reason, in the picture we can see that imaging and advanced therapies had a lower ratio than diagnostics. Why might a Healthineers division command a higher or lower multiple than the segment average? It happened because each segment of Healthineers doesn't have the same behavior. For example, in imaging and advanced therapies had a double-digit earning growth, however, diagnostic segment had a low single-digit earning decline. But the company invests and launched a telecom platform in order to increase the efficiency and improve their performance. In the case of diagnostic in 2019, the company will have a higher multiple than the segment average. Would you recommend any other method? I would recommend the goodwill-based methods because Siemens businesses held lending market position and its global industry portfolio was highly diverse. For that reason, it's important to take into consideration the goodwill. Also, the company built on global number one position in therapies and imaging and a global number two position in diagnostics. Goodwill seeks to represent the value of the company's intangible assets, which frequently don't show up on the asset report, but which, however, contribute a favorable position with respect to other companies operating in the sector. It is a mixture of accounting valuation method that is based on the balance sheet and cash flow discount valuation method, that is the value that the company generates in the future. It is composed of several methods. One of them is the classic valuation method. This method states that a company value is equal to the value of its net assets plus the value of its goodwill. In turn, the goodwill is valued as n times the company's net income.
Question 8. Why do a sum of the part valuation? What was it telling him?
So, first of all, what is the sum of the parts valuation? It's an approach to valuing a firm by separately assessing the value of each business segment or subsidiaries in order to get the total value of the company. It also can be used with other evaluation methods such as discount cash flow or multiples. And now, why do we have to use it? Mainly because if you have a company that operates in different sectors such as Siemens or Healthineers, if you want to know the total value of your company, it's better to calculate each separate value of their business of operations. Also, we have to consider that not all the sectors use the same evaluation method. So, with the sum of the parts valuation, you can help with the different evaluation methods such as discount cash flow or multiples to get the real total value of the company. So the only thing that you have to do is calculate the value of each separate sectors and then you have to sum it in order to get the real value. And now, talking about the results, JP Morgan obtained a stock price of 32.6 euros using this valuation method. Also, they could learn more in detail about each division of Healthineers, and they could notice that imaging business sector was more stable and attractive. However, they have to be cautious on diagnostic business because a Telica, an in vitro system, will be causing problems in the future. Uh, Also, they could use multiple valuations and the discount cash flow in order to estimate the forecast EBITDA for each sector.
Question 9. At this stage, did Healthineers appears to be a good buy? What key question did Franz want to explore in developing his analysis? So, at this stage, Healthineers seems to be a good buy. This is because the price of 32.7 euros per share will be considered as a good price if we compare with the estimations of DB and JP Morgan. DB estimates a stock price of 36 euros, so we have to pay more. And JP Morgan estimates a stock price of 32.6 euros. So the difference with this price is minimal, it's just 0.1 euros. In addition to this, we can see that some of the Franz key questions will be: what's the stock a good buy at 32.7 euros per share? Will it be a good addition to the investor's portfolio? What method of valuation will be more accurate to determine the value per share? Also, we can say that this is a good buy because Healthineers is a strong company in the three different sectors that they operate. For example, if we can see in the following table, they obtain a market share of 31% in imaging sector, 15% in diagnostic sector, and 32% in advanced therapy sector. So they are the number 1 or number 2 in the market. In addition to this, with the JP Morgan results, we can notice that the sector that contributes more to the EBITDA of Healthineers is imaging, with 61%. And the sector that contributes less is advanced therapy sector with 12%. Also, it's good to mention that this company experiments an increase in its revenue growth. So they obtain a 3.2 for the year 2019, but they expect to obtain a 4.7% in the year 2022.
Conclusions. Recommendations.